Welcome to another episode of Tech Talk with AFO. We have a slight modification to our approach, and this is deliberate, is because we want the conversation to be more interesting. Now I have new friends coming on board. Everybody knows Demola. Demola has been on our show a couple of times, but Demola will be a regular going forward. Very smart, intelligent, techie guy. A round of applause for Demola. It's not only Demola that will be coming on set regularly now. Abiola also have committed to be part of our interesting conversation. So we want to pair. So it's going to be a pair of Demola and Ife, Abiola and Kester. Tech Talk with AFO, our conversation around technology. We discuss technology end to end from different angles. We share our own opinion. We look at trending tech topics. We also use this opportunity to promote our project, our non-profit project. We really want to see what we can do in our own little way to make difference, particularly in Africa. So we started a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and we are still on it. If you remember, we said, if your conversation is not around AI, if you have a new solution and it's not AI something, nobody wants to talk to you. Demola, if you are launching a new startup and your solution is not AI driven, is any investor going to talk to you, Demola?
Well, it depends. Some investors are still first principles, still believe in first principles, right? And just like technology, I think I'm with them. I side with them. I think that a lot of times there's a misconception that technology is the solution. Technology is an enabler. So in the same vein, also, I think AI is an enabler. AI is not the solution, right? AI is the vehicle that would that would drive that solution to where it wants to go. I feel like yes, because it's emerging technology. Everybody excited about it. But I think you're right. Fear of missing out is kind of making a number of investors and stakeholders, once you just put a full AI, maybe you raise $100,000. Nobody cares about a full AI as long as they have AI at the back of it. But at the same time, too, once upon a time, I know there was so much talk around NFTs, right? And so these things just come and these things go. But ultimately, what matters most is first principles, which is, does your business, are you generating revenue? Profit is revenue minus cost, right? Those things are fundamentals. Yes, you can raise all the money you like, but ultimately what matters most is, are you a going concern? I'll just say to everyone, yes, AI is great, but don't think that you're going to get away with just enabling your solution if AI. So yeah.
Thank you, Demola. We use that to welcome you on board. Ife also has a solution he wants to start up very soon, and I'm sure Demola will be more than willing to help you. It's also AI something. Okay? AI what?
Well, I don't have any in mind currently, but I think if you are starting up anything, you should just have this, just put like Demola said, just put the AI in front, Ife.ai or anything, and investors will just go with it. But I think it's a selling point, though. You can't argue against it. Like, that is where we are now. Everything has a timeline, so it will soon pass.
So guys, the angle I'm coming from today, our conversation about AI today is something that, to be honest with you, I just realized that are we not likely going to find ourselves in some big trouble globally if AI is not on check, right? We know that the AI technology is fantastic. Is without doubt one of humanity's most significant advancements. It obviously holds the power to revolutionize our lives across all sectors, from medical breakthroughs to monumental engineering feats, from enhancing food production to redefining efficiency I doubt if there's any walk of life that AI would not improve significantly. But guys, my worry now is the damage AI can be for humanity, right? As we're coming on set, preparing for this, I was just going through some of the news, and I'm like, can this really be true? So, for example, they said the modern warfare is actually AI driven. Now, the fight between Ukraine and Russia, that a bulk of some of those decisions in what target to strike are AI dependent. Also in the news, if there's anything the world has been so worried about, it's also around, the war in Palestine, Gaza, Israel issue. It all started with, some crazy guys launching attack on killing so many people in Israel, and that triggered Israel to also launch a counter attack. But the one that caught my interest is that close to 37 million lives lost in this particular conflict. There's an application called Lavender, which was the basis of decision on who to strike and who to kill on the battlefield. And these are AI generated targets. Decisions around who dies are AI determined. So looking at my own position on AI, the best thing that has ever happened to humanity, and looking at how quickly that AI could also be responsible bringing down humanity the way we know it. We all grew up to understand nuclear weapon as the biggest threat to humanity, right? And we also understood that the big powers, what's it called? The Security Council of UN, the US, Russia, managed to understand that nobody is going to win this war, whichever way you look at it. Now, putting AI in the mix of that, I see that as a big issue, and I see that as a big deal. So, guys, I want your thoughts around this. What do you guys think? Have you done any research around Lavender? And is it as scary as, for me, it is really very scary for me. I don't know about you guys, but I want your thoughts individually. These are my own first submission on weaponization of AI. Who's going first?
Yeah, I think I'll just quickly make a very fast point. Lavender for me it's actually a breakthrough in for the military, right? And it is scary because when I read about what it does, I realized that no. Like, I think we are going too far. There's this shift in what we call military tools now to what we have currently. So Lavender is what it does is it will like identify a target from out of like true data like age, and some other statistics, right? After identifying the data, there's this other tool called Where is Daddy? So that one is even worse than Lavender, but I'm still going to go to that. So it will identify a target and automate a strike on that particular target. And so far, the Israeli, they've successfully eliminated about 37,000 Palestinians with this AI tool, and it is a really scary thing, because if we are going from a moral standpoint, some of the targets that were actually eliminated most of them were not even affiliated to the war or the terrorism whatsoever, but that would just show how the flaws in it would just show the flaws in this recent development. And I think the Israelis, they still have a lot of things to do, a lot of tweaks, a lot of changes. And also talking about regulations, I think some of these things needs to be put out, because you can't just have something that will just go haywire on everybody like that. It's
Demola,
Yeah. Yes.
I'm interested in your thoughts around this. What do you think?
Okay. A number of things. Just to educate our audience, just like Ife has rightly said, I think we're in a world where the warfare or the tools for engagement in terms of warfare have changed, right? For context, World War One between 1914 and 1918 was more around, chariots and horses and things like that. Yes, there was some technology around it. And World War II evolved towards, there were some atomic bombs and all of that. We hope and pray there's no World War III, right? But the wars that happened so far in the past, in past 2 to 3 years, has all been very, very more sophisticated. I know there was some time where they were using chemical weapons and all of that. So like Ife has rightly said, I think one use case, for AI, as beautiful as it is, I think AI is like a knife. You can use it to cook a very sumptuous meal, and you can use it to hurt somebody. And I think that we've seen a very, very use case by, especially in the Israel-Palestine war, right, where there's a tool called Lavender. And maybe I'll just quickly touch on some of the characteristics or features, to give more context as to what makes it very scary. I think one is intelligence gathering. So gone are days where, it's not hope and pray, right? It's not that just dropping bombs somewhere, hoping it kills some people. So intelligence has actually gone way better than that. So it's actually very, very specific and very niche. So it's a case of I want to target XYZ sets of people, and it kind of figures out a way how to target them, right? Another feature is precision and targeting, like I mentioned earlier. The tool can assist enemies with assets with greater precision and collateral damage. Another one is training and simulation. So typically, what this tool has been able to do has been able to gather enough data such that it's able to simulate how a typical attack will take place, which is actually very scary. Which means that attacks can be taking place based on data that has been imputed in this thing, right? And I can picture in my head the generals or the strategists sitting in one room and just as if they're playing a video game, right? And people are dying on the other hand. It's actually very, very, very scary. And for those that play video games, imagine if you're actually holding a pad, and you're just basically controlling how things work. And that thing is actually having an effect on real people in the real world. Very, very scary. I think the last thing I'll say,
I was going to ask you to hold your thought because we have a couple of videos to also shape our conversation. But looking at what you're trying to like a puzzle you're putting together. So you're talking about different data sets that have actually existed for years. You understand?
Yes.
You're talking about birth registry. You're talking about sex. You're talking about location. You're talking about all those things that we generally have in video analytics, in surveillance, right?
Yeah.
We know of this age bracket. We know all your faces. We have a face database of everybody. In video analytics, the things that you can actually put together, and that's the kind of enhancement that comes with AI. That narrows it down that people with this character have the tendencies of doing this. Then you can now put different activities in making your decision. But before we go in depth in terms of how effective this can be and the damage it can have on us, because nobody has monopoly of this knowledge the way it stands now. The Chinese are aggressively expanding their AI capacity. The Russians, the Israeli, in fact, Israeli are known to be, serious exporter of some of this technology. But can we see the first video?
Okay.
The world is entering a new age of warfare. A digital revolution is sweeping through every military force on the planet. Leading the charge is artificial intelligence, a technology with the power to upend everything about human conflict, including whether humans are involved at all. And simmering beneath is a global cyber war that's already started and may never end.
Digital technology is transforming all our lives, so it's no wonder that it's also changing how we fight. It's making militaries smarter, faster, more efficient. But it's also opening up the prospect of serious dangers in the future.
is a third revolution of warfare after gunpowder and nuclear weapons.
There will be more unpredictability, and that will make the whole world a more dangerous place.
Here in Berlin, Germany's foreign minister tells us a tech arms race is underway.
We're right in the middle of it. That's the reality we have to deal with.
In fact, critical technologies are developing so fast that societies can barely keep up and ask themselves the question, is this really what we want? So in this video, we're going to zero in on two risks that are not getting enough attention.
First, we'll see how a cyber intrusion against the command and control systems for nuclear weapons could set off a terrifying chain of events.
You have to worry that it's going to escalate into something that's like truly apocalyptic civilization ending.
Then we'll examine how a recent war in an obscure part of the world provided a taste of things to come, accelerating a race for autonomous weapons, and how the artificial intelligence behind them could lead to conflicts that move at horrifying speed.
All of a sudden you have a war that no one really started and which could spiral out of control.
We'll catch glimpses of a future where wars can start more easily, where they can escalate faster, and where humans can't stop them.
Machines are dictating the conduct on the battlefield. Machines are making the ultimate decisions about life and death.
The good news is, it's not too late to make choices. So in the final part, we're going to look at what political leaders could be doing now to prevent the worst from happening down the road. But first, we begin with a scenario that isn't from the future. It could happen today.
We're going to England's North York Moors, near the coast and the windy North Sea. Here we find what could be the most important place in the world that you have probably never heard of. Its name is Fylingdales, a British Air Force base that's notable not for its planes, but for this grey edifice jutting out of the ground. They call it the Pyramid, but in fact, it's a giant radar. It's not the only one. There's something similar on the other side of the world, at Clear Air Force Base in Alaska. And there's another far to the south at Beale, in the heat of the California desert. There's one hidden in the forest on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where America nudges out into the West Atlantic. And in the frozen north of Greenland, far above the Arctic Circle, you'll find that another pyramid looms. These installations are all part of America's early warning system, powerful radars built to detect attacks on the US homeland or American allies. Above all, incoming nuclear missiles. It's a system that reaches out into space, where dedicated satellites keep watch from high orbit, constantly feeding back to the command and control apparatus in charge of America's own nuclear weapons.
This is the nervous system of the Western military alliance. It dates back to the Cold War, but in today's geopolitical tensions, it's as crucial as ever. Disrupting it could leave the alliance blind, prone to attack.
That was made clear in America's latest nuclear posture review, essentially the instruction manual of its most powerful weapons. This infrastructure is so important, the review said, that if it were attacked, the US might respond by using nuclear weapons.
As we're going to find out, despite their critical position at the heart of Western security, these systems are vulnerable to new and unpredictable threats.
The first early warning systems were built decades ago, at the height of the Cold War. Their job, detecting nuclear missiles coming in from Russia. As they've been updated over the decades, two crucial things have changed that make them more exposed. First, many are no longer focused only on nuclear threats. They're multitasking.
None of the big command and control systems whose existence has been acknowledged by the US government are used exclusively for non-nuclear operations.
James Acton is one of the world's leading experts on nuclear security.
And that's one example of this phenomenon that I term the growing entanglement between the nuclear and the non-nuclear domains.
This idea of entanglement is important. It means that the incredibly sensitive area of nuclear weapons is no longer separated off in its own bubble. It's become mixed in with matters of conventional warfare. And that multitasking means that these systems are more likely to be a target.
In a crisis or a conflict, adversaries could have a potential incentive to attack these dual-use command and control assets, these assets that are used for both nuclear and non-nuclear operations. Potentially, they're doing that in order to disrupt US conventional warfighting, but that would have the effect of degrading the US nuclear command and control architecture.
So there are more reasons to attack these targets. And on top of that comes the second big change. They've entered the digital age, opening them up to the prospect of cyber attack.
Systems are now relying on digital signals as opposed to analog signals, increasingly relying on things like IP-based operating systems.
That means computer operating systems with networking capabilities.
Which creates vulnerabilities, for example, in the form of cyber attacks. Very old-fashioned nuclear command and control systems that didn't use digital systems were invulnerable to cyber attacks. There was no code there to do the attacking.
Hundreds of German politicians have fallen victim to a hack of their personal information.
A major hacking.
Today, cyber attacks are an everyday event. We often hear about them on the news. In fact, some say we've entered a low-grade cyber war that will never stop.
You have a mix of state-level, non-state actors constantly probing and attacking networks around the world. That's just a reality of 21st century life and something that we'll have to deal with.
Just about everything and everyone can be a target. Recent attacks have hit the US government, the German parliament, and Iran's nuclear program. And they're just the ones we know about. Some of the most serious cyber attacks have hit public infrastructure, like those against Ukraine's power grid, attacks blamed on Russia. That was so grave that the United States stepped in to press charges against the alleged perpetrators.
No country has weaponized its cyber capabilities as maliciously and irresponsibly as Russia.
Attacks like that on civilian infrastructure have become a matter of major public.
So, Demola, you have a lot to unpack here. You have AI, you have cyber crime, coming together, looking at the capabilities we have in the mix here. You have AI on one side, so you have the threat actors now using AI as their tool of operation. So the point here is even the so-called developed countries that has all these munitions, that have all these facilities scattered around, obviously would depend on what's it called, IP network to connect their command centers. And you simply could have someone that doesn't even have all the level of sophistication or resources and can bring down all the infrastructure that could either act as a deterrent or line of defense, simply leveraging the power of AI to crack the codes and have access. So I want you to continue from your the thought I asked you to hold on to.
Okay, so like I was saying earlier, I think it actually now opens another can of worms. I mean, I've had scenarios where one country is hacking another country's system, or they're basically now what we call like cyber viruses and all of that. So imagine if an hypothetical scenario now. Imagine if as solid and robust as one country's system is. I'm trying to be very careful so I don't mention names and create any kind of bias. So country A's system is very robust and sophisticated. They have trained their AI models to be able to, to attack their enemies. And country B is able to hack into that system, and now reprogram the system such that it says, attack country A. And before you know it, these artificial intelligence systems are now attacking the country that owns them, quote and unquote, right? So it just creates a new scale of problems. Because the thing about computers is that it's the garbage in, garbage out, right? Is what you're able to impute in it. That's the output that you get. So I think that beyond just the very and special damages that these things can cause, in the long run, it just creates a whole lot of complexities, around how to defend against it. I'll say we're looking ahead at very interesting times, and also very, very scary times. Scary because, like I mentioned earlier, AI, any other tool, is like a knife. It can be used to cook a sumptuous meal. It can be used to cause damage and cause harm. Let's just see how it all plays out. But I'll say that as much as possible, it's better not to be a spectator. Speaking as an African now, it's better not to be a spectator in this whole drama and movie, right? It's better to play an active role. Maybe it's going to be a positive role, but it's better to play a role. And before you can play a role, you have to understand it. You have to understand how these things work. And that's where STEM and things like that come into play. But I don't want to delve into that.
You have to understand it too, because if you are not on the seat, if you are not on the table, you're on the menu. Hold yourself there. Ife is a security expert, right? And I want you to look at the security implications of AI and how a good intention can all of a sudden become a bad one, simply because somebody dropped the ball.
Yeah, so the thing is, I always say that no matter how robust your system is, that there's always a loophole. There will always be a loophole, right? And that's one thing about digital technologies, right? So digital technologies would normally leave this room for hijacks, for cyber attacks, right? So I was watching this video and I saw that with all the systems they have at all the cardinals, everything is IP based. And when you have an IP based system, it is mostly like you can have a Russian 7-year-old boy. The guy can just develop an algorithm and just use it to attack your system. And that's the problem with automating technologies. Like back then when we have analog system where you can just run Morse code and do all those little things, you still have to get to the system before you can compromise the system. But in a case where we now have integrated technology where you can actually speak to a system from one location and interact with the system, it has made everything around everything around compromising a system a little bit easy. And like I would always say, no matter how robust, no matter how innovative a system is, we would always have some parties, some black hat hackers that are always looking for ways to compromise that system. So it is something we just have to just accept that this is the trend and this is how it is always going to be. You can't, when it comes to automation, you can't have a complete automated well backed up. You can't. There will always be a loop. Always be people that would always be looking for that loophole to compromise the system.
Ife and Demola, the threat we were dealing with, I can be likened to analog threats, right? You're thinking about bunch of hackers that are somewhere in a basement in some countries. Again, Demola asked me how to mention it.
Fully funded,
right? That are fully funded. But right now we're moving in the direction that I can just simply sit on a system and type in, give me codes to hack an architecture that looks like this.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making sense. Right? That's the level, how sophisticated AI has become. I'm just simply giving you...
it is regulated though. Although it is regulated, if you check ChatGPT, there are some things we can actually do as regards cyber attacks.
If ChatGPT regulated, right? But ChatGPT is not the only. It's not the only. OpenAI is not the only mix. in AI now. Don't you get what I'm saying? Remember, you also have the dark web, don't you? Gone are the days, like we're really moving what we used to have as threat actors in the past are individuals. Sometimes it could actually be a syndicate. By the end of the day, you have individuals that are cracking these codes, right? They are the ones trying to launch a code that will break through a firewall, your DMZs or whatever you have. They are writing it every day, but these are individuals. But we've gotten to this point that you simply could just you have an idea of what you want to do. You know the system you want to act. You have an idea of the architecture, and you are simply asking, you are giving a prompt to an AI system that is properly designed with different data sets, with good idea of how hacking has been done in the past, and you're asking the AI system to replicate different ways of cracking that firewall and having access to these nuclear facilities. That's the kind of threat I see. And I want you to react to that. These are the kind of threats I see that has actually really given me some serious concerns here.
Well, to echo what you're saying and echo your thoughts, I mean, I think that my fear is even the threats that we cannot even see, right? I think that, I mean, if this is going to be a puzzle from A to Z, right? Maybe we are just at A and B, we can't even try to comprehend, the essential threats that we have, so it's, like you've said, it's really, really scary. And the fact that you don't even need that number mass anymore, like Ife rightly said, all you need is just a bunch of people wearing hoodies with a very fast computer that has a very good processor, and their maths gigs and all of that, and 5 of them can shut down the world. Yes, right? Before now, I mean, countries used to depend on the strength of their military. I think the US or China has the highest. I think China has the highest number of military personnel right now in the world. So before now, that used to be an indicator of how strong you are, right? But right now, I don't think anybody is concerned about boots on the ground anymore, right? With one nuclear weapon or one very, very funny weapon, I mean, thousands and millions of people can be wiped out. So gone are the days where it's about the numbers, Right now, like you always say, it's not about quantity right now, it's about quality. How potent is your solution? How deadly is your solution, right? How much scale? How intelligent are your models? How much data do you have at your disposal? Those are the things that are going to actually affect and tilt the advantage to anybody's direction, right? So it's actually very, very scary. Because imagining that a couple of people who might not be in a good mood, let me use the word mood now, right? Can just say, don't teach XYZ a lesson, right? And they do it. I mean, I've heard of countries where, I don't want to mention names like I mentioned earlier, right? Where they're able to hack into a system or do something quite destructive. And by the time they do some research and get some intelligence based on their gatherings, they find out that it's a bunch of 10 people in one room, somewhere remotely, somewhere, I don't know, anywhere in the world, right? And you realize that these 10 people are able to cause enormous amount of harm. Before now, even as soon as 10 years ago, you had to send troops on ground, you had to have the general stay in one battle room somewhere, drawing strategy and using old maps and all of that. But gone are those days, very, very scary times.
No, it's not about who has more intelligence.
Yes.
Who has more sophisticated intelligence?
No. And just to add,
that's the battle now.
Yes, sorry. Just to add, you come to also realize that a lot of the times it has to do with how much information you're able to collect. I think a few weeks ago in Nigeria, I think there was this issue with WhatsApp. I think it was a month ago there, but I can't remember. Then WhatsApp was down for a period of time. I think it happened about a month or two ago. And in that time, I thought that was one scenario. Second scenario was, I think it was one issue with the internet across some African countries as well. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, where I think it was an undersea cable and all of that. And these two scenarios just made me it was an aha moment for me, because I was like, wait a minute. It basically means that if anybody wants to control or wants to hamper on our communication, it just takes one or two things. That's it.
Yeah.
It takes an attack on the telecommunication system. We can't all communicate, right? Or it takes someone just say, you know what, I don't like my alliance with your country anymore. I'm shutting down my platform. And there's nothing anybody's going to do about it. So I think that these are just use cases that I can see. Beyond sophisticated AI and all of that, you come to realize that all of these things are also, and that's why some countries decide to prioritize their own local providers or their own local solution providers. For example, I know in China, there's no WhatsApp, they use WeChat. I know that for translation, they mostly use Didi and all of that. So I think it's a case of emphasizing a world where, what if there's some battle with America? If they are hooked on WhatsApp, right? They are locked in, right? They are the mercy of America. So I feel like one of the reasons why they say, you know what, let's have our own solutions and we can control it 100% end to end.
I want to, Demola doesn't like conspiracy, right? But I just want to give, I want to give some sort of population right now, just for you guys, to understand how dangerous things can go very quickly. All right. So, recently, a week ago, I think was it last week or a couple of weeks ago, right? Some, I probably will see it in the next video, right? And a particular humanitarian convoy was targeted. This humanitarian convoy, World Center Kitchen, I think it belongs to one, Spanish American, right? Trying to deliver foods to the Palestinians that are really that so much needed this aid, and they coordinated that activity with the Israeli government. This is where we're going. This is our route. This is everything, right? And for some reason, it was a convoy of 3 vehicles. The first vehicle was struck with a missile. They had some survival. Took out some of those that survived, moved them to the second vehicle. In few minutes, the second vehicle struck. Survival, moving to the next vehicle. Everybody on that convoy died. 7 of them Europeans, and it became a major global issue. And there was serious pressure on Israel. And Israel is saying this was a mistake. Now, this is the angle I'm coming from. Demola, it is also very possible, which a lot of people disagree, that it also could have been a security breach. It could be a bad actor that has infiltrated Israel's system, fed the system, or lavender or whatever it's called, fed the system the assumption that there are Hamas in those vehicles, which was why Israel consistently hits first, second, third vehicle. So that comes back to the conversation we're saying that things can go quickly. And the tension we have now is a combination of all of these things, right? Demola, Ife, the second video.
Yeah.
Wars drive advances in technology. The longer a war drags on, the greater the push for innovative tech to drive results on the battlefield. The First World War gave us tanks, the Second World War, the atomic bomb. Today, the world is witnessing 2 major wars, Israel's war in Gaza and Russia's invasion in Ukraine, and artificial intelligence has entered both these battlefields. AI is being used by the soldiers fighting these wars. Or you could say, AI is the new soldier in these wars. Israel's AI soldier is called Lavender. It's a killing machine. It spits out lists of targets, individuals suspected of terrorism. Lavender creates these lists for the IDF, that is the Israeli Defense Force. According to one report, the IDF used Lavender to make a list, and it did, with some 37,000 Palestinians on it. They were labeled as suspected Hamas militants. So the AI system identified these people for the IDF, and then the soldiers simply went after the people on the list. No questions asked. Typically, in operations like these, militaries take their time. They follow multiple steps before going on a bombing spree, like resorting to human intelligence, a source on the ground who can identify and track a suspect. The next step is to seek solid evidence, clear proof of involvement in terrorist activities. And once they have this proof, ideally from multiple sources, they give orders to neutralize the suspect. But Israel seems to be relying completely on Lavender. It has basically taken over their intelligence gathering process. Once it marks someone as a target, their fate is sealed. There is little human intervention, no verification or scrutiny of the raw intelligence from Lavender, even when the system is known to commit mistakes. Lavender has an error rate of 10%. So on a list of, say, 100 targets, 10 names could be wrong, meaning innocent people could be branded terrorists and killed because a machine pointed at them. Is the idea of checking these things? Well, it denies using the system altogether. Israel says it is not using AI to lock targets. But another report challenges this claim. It's from December last year. It says Israel's military has an AI unit that runs a secret facility and churns out kill lists like a factory production line. We've not been able to verify either claim. Palestinians, though, have sought international intervention to stop Israel.
Over the past 5 months, Israel has been engaged in the most sustained and intense bombing campaign of a populated area in history in Gaza. More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, including over 13,000 children. We need to ask ourselves what led to such a staggering death toll. That Israel's use of artificial intelligence has been central to the execution of its mass killings in Gaza.
This no longer sounds like an experimental project. Militaries the world over, in fact, are turning to AI to get an edge on the battlefield. Ukraine, for example, it is using artificial intelligence, attacking Russian forces using AI-enabled drones. But their capabilities are limited. The tech on these drones can help in navigation and avoid jammers. So the drone can find its way to the target, but it cannot determine who to strike or where. That is still being decided by humans. Ukraine is also using AI to create war plans. It uses a Western software to analyze pictures from satellites, drone footage, and reports from the battlefield. And this software processes data. It helps Ukraine in tracking patterns, and commanders can use these inputs as they weigh their options. But Kiev is not satisfied with this. It is asking for more tech support.
We see that the biggest need is in technologies. We need AI. For instance, the technology for finding targets, just like how the Lancet operates, so that a target can be located under electronic warfare and destroyed. We are currently focused on solving this problem, how to create technology that would allow us to capture the target within a couple of kilometers and, despite electronic warfare, destroy the target with the drone.
So AI in warfare is no longer just a theoretical concept. It is very much part of military planning and, to some extent, real-life missions. Artificial intelligence is fighting wars. You may remember the recent American strikes in West Asia. The US used AI there to find Houthi rocket launchers in Yemen and their ships in the Red Sea. Recent American strikes in Iraq and Syria were also conducted using AI. The technology was used to pinpoint the targets. And they plan to induct more AI-based tools. Reports say the US military has more than 800 active AI projects, more than 800 projects. They're aimed at various aspects of warfare, from data processing to planning weapon resupply routes. And China is not far behind. China's PLA, that is the People's Liberation Army, is building a network of unmanned weapons and sensors. And where do they plan to deploy these? In the waters surrounding China. These weapons will serve as information gathering tools. And China plans to deploy AI to process this data too, also for electronic warfare. They plan to use it for two things, for the analysis of radio waves and for jamming operations. So it's only a matter of time. America and China, in fact, have the world's biggest militaries and the biggest defense budgets. If they get AI capabilities, others are sure to follow. If they aren't doing that already, that is. The AI arms race is upon us. And to be fair, we are still far away from a Terminator-like situation where killing robots with a mind of their own start fighting wars. But at this rate, the scenario cannot be ruled out.
I want you guys to take yourself away from the politics of this conversation, right? I want us to just focus on the technology itself, you understand, which is what our conversation is about. The same technology that we started our conversation with, that this is obviously good for humanity. You can get a lot of things done very quickly by the fact that all those monotonous tasks that you have to make decisions around, individually, are things that you actually can automate and really get to a conclusion very quickly. Now, this is when you're looking at it for good reasons. But look at it in the context of, military activities, and how quickly. And if you look at that particular report, it's simply saying that this is not a game anybody can win. It's not. And that takes us back to the civility that has to come to place, the regulation that is so much necessary. Demola, I held your thoughts earlier, when you were trying to make your point on what Africa should do, what a country like Nigeria should do, particularly looking at how things are playing out. You want to start from there?
Okay. Well, a number of things. I think that first of all, it's important to establish that, we're at a, I won't say disadvantage, but we're behind. Maybe not far behind, because the beauty of technology is that it doesn't follow like an arithmetic or a geometric progression, right? That's the beauty of technology. So we're behind. Let's acknowledge that. But a number of things that I think, smaller countries like Nigeria, in the context of, artificial intelligence and technology can do, can be one, investing in what I call niche technologies, right? So basically, is focusing and narrowing down to one area and building capacity and expertise in it, right? The truth about it is you can't out America more than America. You can't out China more than China, right? You can't out France more than France. So it's basically figuring out, okay, what is the low-hanging fruit, and how can we leverage on our strengths and competitive advantage, to provide niche technologies. Example of new technologies can be, for example, can say, hey, let's focus on cyber defense. We mentioned cyber earlier. So if you ramp up our knowledge and understanding of cyber defense, we can say, hey, over the next 5 years or over the next 3 years, let's do anything and everything we can do to ensure that when it comes to cyber defense, we are improving, right? Because we don't necessarily also have the resources. We don't have the budget. We can't. We just don't have the budget. America is a $21 trillion economy, right? Nigeria is still trying to be a $1 trillion economy, right? So what that means is that our budget for defense and military is way lower. We don't need the suit to tell us that. What that means, they have to put our approach according to our size and focus on niche technologies. Another niche technology also can be focusing on open source data, for example, and using intelligence gathering to leverage on that, and things like that. That's one. Two is what I'll call human capital. The beauty of Africa is Africa has 1 billion people, and is projected to be the youngest or most populous continent by 2050. That's an advantage. And the beauty of that also is the fact that Africa has young people. So I feel technology is a tool. So what we can do is say we can invest heavily in education, especially in STEM programs, right? To create the next generation of scientists, and technologists. I think countries like China and Russia, I think in the 80s and the early 90s, focused a whole lot on that. In fact, I think they attracted people worldwide through scholarships, to encourage people to do STEM programs and all whatnot. And I think that one of the things that's giving them competitive advantage in this space. Another thing I think smaller countries can do is build international alliances. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, we are relatively small countries. It's a small country rather, right? So the question is,
can I come in there? Talking about building alliances, these days now, it's now a question of, because, so for example, now there's a new alliance that is, going in that direction of so BRICS now is beginning to seem as an opposition to Western alliance. Do you understand? So it's going to be a question of, if you're on this side, if you are for them, you are against me. So what should a small country do in that context?
I think building alliances for small countries.
What's that?
Building alliances for a small country is somehow.
Well, so let me explain. Let me give more context.
Yeah.
So let me give more context.
Finish your thought. Demola, finish your thought.
Yeah, let me give more context, right? I think it's just also like business, right? I mean, I think that some of these things also simulate with business. And I think it boils down to the first thing I said, which is focusing on your strengths. So for example, as strong as a strong country is, they have areas of weaknesses. They have areas of, they have weak points, right? They have places where everything can all falter. So the question is understanding that, okay, you know what, country A has this area of weakness. Of course, nobody's going to be an alliance if there's no mutual benefits, right? So I can't just say, oh, I want you to be an alliance with me. It doesn't work like that. However, if I've observed and say, hey, I think you need this, and I have this. So let me give an example. This is quite a very generic example, right? Imagine if Nigeria is trying to form an alliance with a country that doesn't have oil. I'm just saying, for example, for whatever reason, right? And their source of power is more expensive than, they can say, hey, that's why they have diplomats. That's why they broker these treaties and all of that. The reason for it is because I have something that you need that you don't have. You have something that I need that I don't have. So I feel like we can leverage on that. But in this case, for example, India exports, I think they have the top tech talent in the world. Correct me if I'm wrong. And as simple as that is, the Microsoft CEO is Indian, Google CEO is Indian, Adobe, I can go on and on and on. India's, right. So
go ahead.
Yeah. So India has created a name for itself, that is known to be arguably tech capital of the world. Because honestly and sincerely, I don't think most things get outsourced to India, even from Nigeria. And I work in a financial institution, right? And most of the banking applications are either run by Indians or they have some footprint somewhat. And basically, what that means is that they are known globally as a tech hub. And beyond even being a tech hub, right, there's so much talent. And India is very, very deliberate about that. So I feel like if we can liken this to this as well and say, hey, what is Nigeria known for? Nigeria is known for these kinds of people that have this kind of talent. And because we have not invested so much in this, we can tap into the talent base, and leverage on that. That can form some sort of alliance. I remember I mentioned earlier that we have numbers. So let me give you an example.
Demola, yes. Hold your thought. I want only fair to come in now. If you look at what Demola is suggesting, right? Countries should also identify their own needs. So today we're in a situation where a lot of people have aggressively gone into identifying different needs, and that is why the so-called AI is now a threat to humanity. So if Nigeria identifies its own niche, is it going to take away that threat that is my own headache? I want something that would help me quench the threat. Demola is giving me ideas how I could also contribute to the threat. If you please help me out here.
Yeah, I think we can't eliminate those threats totally. What we can just do is to mitigate these threats to ensure that can you hear me?
I know the problem of the two of you, right?
Exactly.
You guys are
so what we can do is to mitigate. What we can do is to mitigate the threats. What we can do is to mitigate the threat. We can't eliminate the threat totally. Even in cybersecurity, it's a team. Like we should always ensure that yes, threats are being mitigated because there's no way we can totally eliminate threats, right? And one of the things I think we can do, and as a country, and this is not only talking about Nigeria, but every other countries, we can set some ethical guidelines for AI development because and deployments. There has to be some ethical guidelines. And also, one thing that I used to fight for is the transparency in algorithms. There's a fight with Elon Musk and OpenAI now. He's calling them closed AI because they've started doing some things that I don't want to mention names. I think I think it's a general knowledge though. So So there's a fight between OpenAI and Elon Musk. It's a general knowledge. So the agreement was that whatever you are developing has to be transparent. Whatever algorithm you are developing has to be transparent, and it has to be open for use. It has to be open source for the public to be able to contribute to and make use of, right? But when OpenAI partnered with Microsoft, they tend to just push Elon to the side, and he has actually been fighting against what they are currently doing now. Yeah, transparency in algorithms and decision-making process is very important. Like, look at Lavender now, right? And like you said, everything is actually about data. Data is everything, right? And the reason why Lavender is Lavender is because Palestinians, they've actually, in some way, somehow, they've actually exposed some of the personal data of their countrymen to Israel. So what Lavender is basically doing is to process these data and use it to identify potential threats. And I think for Nigeria too, if there's any war or anything, we are going to be in the loop of it, because most of our own personal data are with most of these social medias, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp. Most of our personal data are with them, even Google, right? If you go out of your house now, you can use Google Maps to actually see, to actually know where you want to go. Google Map can actually identify where you currently are. So, and we are looking at the advantage of it, that, okay, yes, it can link me to where I want to go. It can direct me to anywhere. But the major disadvantage is that when it gets to that point, right, they are going to use all these data against us, and we can see what is going at play between Palestine and Israel right now. All the past data are currently being used against them right now. So we just have to, for a country like Nigeria, alliance is good, but we just have to know who we are aligning with. So because we don't want to be
Are you aware that even when your phone is off, as long as you still have your phone on mute, I still can locate you and find your location?
Yes, of course.
Exactly.
I'm aware.
I think a lot of people pay like this very low emphasis on data, right? Data is very important. The fact that WhatsApp, Google, and like yesterday I was basically going through my YouTube and I just saw something on trading, right? Crypto trading. You know, there's this popular thing that is trending on X now. It is some cryptocurrencies, they are just becoming popular. And I was just reading on that particular token, and the next thing is that I was on Twitter, then I saw these feeds on cryptocurrency. I only spent 5 minutes on YouTube. How was my data? Like, how was it? I went to IG just to check. Then I was seeing feeds of crypto. Like, so we can't. There's nothing we can do about it because we actually signed. When you go on any website, it will tell you, do you want to allow cookies? And I think a lot of people don't know what are cookies. They will just accept cookies.
No, there is
accepting cookies means.
No, there is actually. Demola already came up with some suggestions which I would like him to run through again, particularly for us as Africans, right? He mentioned something at the beginning of this conversation, right? Why are countries domesticating technology? You know, it's not because I don't trust any other country, right? It's also an issue of national interest, okay? The example of underground cable, because an underground cable was down or because of something that happened, why do you think everybody wants to also have a satellite that they control in space? From the videos we watched earlier, the reason why you can, why some countries can fully defend themselves independent of anyone is because you also have an eye out of space, right? So at the end of the day, from defense standpoint, if that probably would be the niche and Demola is referring to. I mean, that to me makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, it's not out of place for Nigeria to be the headquarters of cyber defense, right? The capital of cyber defense. That's something we can. I mean, if we can change our Yahoo mindset, which is also security inclined, and channel it to defense, that probably would be a very strong strength for us. What do you think, Demola?
Yes, I think, like I mentioned, playing on your strengths. I also believe that another stance we can take, right, is being what I call an advocate. And I'll give an example that doesn't really get to what we're talking about. I'll digress a bit. There's this country in the world that I don't think anybody hates them. I've ever heard them being hated. Switzerland. When people think of Switzerland, they think of them as neutral as possible. I don't think anybody wakes up and say, I want to attack Switzerland. I don't know why. Do you understand? But it just seems to be there.
They are keeping our money. They are keeping our money now.
But you realize that. You realize that.
Next time, but I'm going to be deliberate about doing more research around Switzerland. Truly, you seem to be making sense. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So for example, I watch football, right? FIFA headquarters in Switzerland. UEFA headquarters in Switzerland. Switzerland just seems to be a country that is just. Yes, So you realize that. Wow. You realize that. For example, I know that the European Union headquarters in Israel.
Abacha's loot was in Switzerland. Go on.
Well, I can't speak to that. I'm not privy to that.
So repatriation of money for Abacha for how many years now has been coming from Switzerland? Come on.
Well, Afo, you said that, right? So as Afo said, so as I was saying, Switzerland is that country. Afo, right? So Switzerland is that country.
And I thought we are friends. Can you see like?
No. We are, but you have to learn the art of being politically correct. In this day and age. Okay. So I was saying a country like Switzerland, quote unquote, doesn't have enemies that I know of, right? And it just, the old World Economic Forum is always Switzerland. If anybody is looking to host anything neutral, in fact, there have been a lot of negotiations, right, between two parties when you want to go to a neutral ground. It's Switzerland, right? So you just realize that they are just there, and they have one of the highest per capita income in the world. So in my case, right, I feel like that's another stance a country can take. To be renowned for neutrality. And renowned for because you realize that no matter how hot both parties are, you just need someone to just pour that cold water, right? And I think that can be a stance, and just to also buttress what I just said, I think it's important to emphasize three things, right? Number one is urgent action. Like Afo said earlier, it's not about trying to make things hotter. I'm trying to say, hey, how can I build my own AI models to be better than your own? So eventually, when it comes to the way we fight, I beat you. Urgency of action, right? The longer we wait, the harder it becomes to control these autonomous weapons, right? So in this going by the stance of being that peacemaker and being that advocate for peace, it's important to emphasize urgency of action. Number two, it's important to have a global perspective, right? So to understand that this is not about one country against another country, but it's about protecting humanity from all the consequences that are unintended, right? And last but not least, shared responsibility. All nations, regardless of their advancements, have a stake in a stable future, right? So one, urgency of action, emphasizing on that. Two is understanding that it's important to have a global perspective. And it's not about me, I country versus your country, but about protecting humanity. And last but not least, having a mindset of this is shared responsibility. This is our world. I know that there are some talks around someone saying, hey, he wants to take human being to Mars and all of that, but that's not ready yet, right? So pending when that becomes reality, Earth is our only home. So it's important to have that mindset. That can be another stance. And the beauty of it is by the time you build that reputation, nobody even wants to attack you, because of the fact that they remember so much goodwill, right? I don't think that Switzerland is first on anybody's list to want to say, you know what, I want to send a nuclear weapon there. Because there's a track record of how neutral they have been and how they have basically galvanized both parties that conflicts at any point in time, to make peace. So in a nutshell, I feel, beyond just saying you want to build niche technologies, you want to beef up your STEM and AI and all of that, it's better to say, you know what, why not? That's another option. Why not be that peacemaker? Where that's build a reputation for being neutral, and brokering peace and being an advocate, to say, you know what, guys, I'm a small country, but I think that's important for everybody to just take a pause and reflect on how far we're going about these things. That's my take.
Demola, again, it takes me back to where I started, bringing you on this conversation is because of the wisdom that comes with your thought process, and while we have this conversation, the conversation started from a fear standpoint of who being fearful. I love technology, I love innovation, but to be honest with you guys, I'm really so worried. You understand? I'm really so worried. And I think it comes with age, like when you start seeing your children, right? And the lives you've enjoyed, you also would love to see your children also having, that same type of experience. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and I'm really seeing humanity under threat, right? Things going the direction Second World War, nobody wanted a war, right? Up till tomorrow, everybody still talks about it. America doesn't want a war with Iran. Iran doesn't want a war with America. Israel doesn't want this. But somehow we are at the brink of something, unfortunate happening. And we need to guide against it as much as we can, right? I was also looking for another country that seems to have the same characteristic as Switzerland. I think Norway also fits in that character. The Oslo Accord, agreement that ever happened between Palestine and Israel, seems to have happened in Oslo as well, right? Maybe we need the spirit of these two countries, Switzerland and Israel, putting a call through to U.S. President, to Prime Minister of Israel, and just bringing these guys to a room. But seriously, a cup of drink can resolve this issue. I don't know.
Well, I get your point, right? But I think a lot of the time the challenge is what I'll call nationalists and nationalist movements. So for example, there's some countries that are hell bent on fulfilling a national agenda. So I think it's just drawing that line between your national agenda and what's best for the world. I think that it's always, and I think that's where bodies like United Nations, I think that's why they set bodies like that up and all of that, right? So at least you can have a common goal. The UN, for example, has what they call the SDG goals, right? And I think things like that is what helps brings the world together. But you're right. Yes, things like that can end over a drink, and just people coming together and just, meeting at the middle, some way, somewhat. But most of the time it's relative, because some things are at stake, So I think, like someone said, the bigger the head, get the headache, right? So most times it's a case of a big country has something at stake, and because of the fact that they have something at stake, sometimes the economy might be on the line. For some economies, for example, some things drive the growth of the economy, right? So they might be incentivized to want to ensure that there are wars. I won't mention names, right? So it's just a case of understanding that sometimes these things are beyond what meets the eye, and their agendas, and most of the time it's very very difficult, for someone to say, okay, let's say for example, country A is going to make $100 billion, right, over the next 3 years if this happens, right, directly or indirectly, and that is what the goal and target is. So no matter how many peace accords and meetings and treaties that you have, are you going to give the country the $100 billion? The answer is no. They have already drawn up their product roadmap, let me use that word, quote and unquote, and said, you know what, in 3 years, we're going to make $100 billion if this happens, right? And because of the fact that they are hell-bent on doing that, they might not come to a meeting and say that's the reason, that's the agenda. So no matter what you say, it will fall on deaf ears, So I think that one thing I also say is important to have a holistic perspective, a very holistic perspective and a more very selfless perspective. The truth about it is that country A or country B, country C, country D.
Demola,
yes.
I would like to hold your thought, selfless position, right? Selfless mindset. If your final thought, right? This has really gone longer than I even expected. It shows how important the conversation is. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think it has always been about it has always been about resources, though. Like the bigger country wants something, then they have to take it by force from the smaller country. And I think there are some issues that you can't settle it by just having a drink, right? It is very deep rooted. It is so deep rooted that but the major point is I think everyone should just come to their right senses and know that yes, it is only one world, it is only one head. If anything should happen, it will affect everybody. Even Switzerland that is playing the neutral, it will affect everybody. I think 2 years back, Putin said something. He said, in this war, like this thing the US is trying to do, like there is going to be no winner. If they should try it, there is going to be no winner. Like it is just going to be lose for everybody. And with the way we have this technology, like development, AIs and everything, and we are not even atomic bomb is still there. Imagine incorporating AI into atomic bomb. And we all know what happened with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and we've seen the effects even till now. We are like the effect is still there till now. Like imagine having, and World War III is definitely going to be a nuclear war. I don't
want to imagine all of those things, and that's why I've been taking notes, right? And before I come down to my key takeaways from the point I got from you guys, it's important again to talk about what we are passionate about, our program, Techtalk-With, right? We want to empower our kids in Africa, to empower them with IT skills, to also give them that opportunity that most of us, what we have today. I remember last week or 2 weeks ago in one of our conversations, and I said, and interestingly, Demola, that was not part of the session 2 weeks ago, also recognizes that what India has achieved today is also because of the deliberate policy on the part of the government, which speaks to brute forcing all their resources to acquire all manner of knowledge anywhere they can find it. And that's why today you cannot talk about IT without Indians. So for us as Africans too, we need to get more people into tech, get more computers in the hands of kids. Now, if our concentration is going to be cybersecurity, we should. And that is something we are very committed to. And I also want to sincerely appreciate you guys for the support for all these our initiatives. Getting laptops and getting it to kids back in Africa as much as we can. Beyond that is also skills, IT skills. The more kids that we can get into some of this, new skill sets that the future depends so much on, the better for us as a country. And we are so committed to that, and that's why we like to talk about it. I mean, we even had gone unconventional, that if we have, we know Nigeria as a country, Africans, we are very religious. And that's why we also took our tech quest to where we took it to church, we're taking it to mosque at some point, just to get more kids into it. So the key takeaways, which is very important, we recognize that AI is good for humanity, and if AI is good for productivity, it's important for us to really be actively involved in the benefits of artificial intelligence, right? And most importantly is for us to have this global conversation on the ethics of it, right? The ethics of how AI should work. Transparency, particularly for all players, very important. And we also should, we as the small countries, Africans, Nigerians, we should not be sitting back. We also have to be actively involved, see how we can. And to be honest with you, some of these technologies these days is not rocket science the way we have it back in the days. It's easy for you to catch up and match the level some of these other countries are. It's important to have this dialogue and cooperation at the global stage. We all understand the dangers that it holds for humanity the way we know it, and that's why that conversation must happen. Regulation, we can't overemphasize that. It's something that compulsorily must happen. There should be some form of regulation on how some of these things will operate at the end of the day. But again, what I disagree with, on my own final remark is, this is a problem that can be resolved on a cup of tea. It could be on a cup of beer.
You've not seen Game of Thrones?
No, I don't want to see it. President Biden.
You know that cup of tea, they will poison it.
Demola, if Putin calls Biden and Biden picks his call, and they both agree that, guy, let's sit down and talk, let's resolve this thing. Okay, what's your point? Because at the end of the day, if you sample, like if you do a survey on the two sides, right? Sample, I'm sure the folks on Russian side and the folks on American side probably would agree on everything. Usually the problem is always at that nationalistic position that Demola was talking about. Guys, not to sound too much political on our conversation, it is still about technology and tech talk with AFO and friends. Thank you guys for your time. Looking forward to another interesting session.
Thank you.
You have a final thought, Demola?
Thank you so much.
You guys have a final thought?
Yes, let me just share. Okay, Faye, you want to go first?
No. This one is just on a lighter note. I want to play a video just for AFO to know that everyone is watching their back. But just you can put out your thoughts. When you are done, I'll just play the video.
Okay. Thank you. I think I want to just land this conversation on just three things, right? One is AI presents both opportunities and challenges for warfare. Two is it's better to carefully consider what the ethical implications are. And three is, I think it's important to also ensure that AI is used responsibly to minimize harm and civilian casualties. AI, like I said, is like water. It presents both opportunities and challenges. Two is, it's better to consider what the ethical implications are. And last but not least, please, let's keep remembering and let's keep ensuring that we use it responsibly to minimize harm. The beauty of technology is supposed to be used to help human life get better, not get worse. And I think I want to land on a very, very interesting quote that talks about the fact that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams, right? So as we think about all of these things, let's ask ourselves, how beautiful is our dream? How beautiful is the dream of the world we want to live in the nearest future? Thank you.
How beautiful is our dream, and how beautiful is the dream we want to live in the nearest future? Ife, your lighter note video.
Yeah. So, well, there's this saying that I'll just be kind of scientific now. There's this saying by Alan White that we are an aperture through which the universe sees itself. And I think the creator of everything, be it God or whatever we term it, has actually given us this room to actually explore, invent, and also discover new things, right? And men are the shaper of the world. We are the shaper of the heads. We are meant to shape the head through the use of innovations and technology, then use that to take over every other words, right? I won't go into the scientific perspective of this. We have a lot of planets that we can actually take over, and but just on that, I'll just say everyone is looking out for themselves, right? Just to play a video on that, on what Afo said, that things can be settled over a drink. I'll just play a video of, I'll share a video of Putin and Kim. So these are two world leaders.
I would like to see the one that is AI generated, and you have Putin and Biden and Netanyahu and the head of Palestine doing the same thing. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Bye.